This bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Tonight on the South Today, it snowed to sea level in Dunedin, bringing people to experience snow on the beach. The Green Party's co-leader says Dunedin co-housing project could be leading the way. And one of New Zealand's most recognisable jewellery traders is helping a community project. Kia ora, good evening, I'm Sophie Morris. Snow fell to sea level in Dunedin this morning, causing traffic chaos on some roads, but the rare sight of snow on the beach at St Clair was a draw card for many people.
Thick snow began falling across Dunedin about 8:30 this morning, making the morning commute tricky for many. This van coming to grief in slippery conditions. While the journey by car off of the City Hill suburbs was best taken gradually. NIWA labelled the event a weather bomb, which is when low pressure strengthens at a pace of more than 24 hectopascals over a 24-hour period. The rare sight of snow at Dunedin's St Clair was a thrill for many people.
I love it. I love seeing the dark clouds and the snow falling and being able to play in it. It's great. It's quite fun because we get snow and we don't have to go up to the mountains for it.
It's strange. It's the first time I've ever seen it like this. It's kind of like a sensory overload when you're walking on sand, but there's also snow.
Me and Harry.
This is my girlfriend Millie, and to have snow on the beach is like to have sugar in a coffee.
Special.
Something that some people don't like, and a lot of people do like it.
Snow has fallen off and on during the day, with a thick dump of snow in the early afternoon across the city. Dunedin Airport says flights have been affected, and State Highway 87 has been closed north of Dunedin. It's understood the last time snow fell on Dunedin's St Clair Beach was in 2017. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Heavy snow has hit parts of the south, closing roads across central Otago and Southland. Met Service weather warnings remain in place for the south, including heavy snow warnings for parts of Otago and Southland. Several southern highways are closed this afternoon. State Highway 87 between Outram and Middlemarch, State Highway 93 between Clinton and Mataura, and State Highway 94, the Milford Road, are all closed due to snow. The Clutha District Council says snow settled to low levels across its network overnight and advised caution to all road users. Snow fell in Roxburgh and the Teviot Valley overnight and started falling across the rest of the region from about 8 a.m. this morning. Central Otago escaped the brunt of the polar blast overnight, with towns throughout the region waking to a dusting of snow on the ranges. The heavy snow warnings are set to be lifted this afternoon. Dunedin co-housing development could lead the way for the rest of the country and help with affordable housing. That's according to Green Party co-leader James Shaw, who visited a co-housing development on Dunedin's High Street yesterday.
This Dunedin co-housing development could lead the way for the rest of the country and help with affordable housing. That's according to Green Party co-leader James Shaw, who spent a snowy day on the campaign trail yesterday, which included a visit to the High Street co-housing development site. Shaw and Green Party Tairi candidate Scott Willis were shown around the site by architect Tim Ross.
This is one of the leading examples in the country, both of a co-housing development, which is a particular type of development where people buy in and then do the design together, but also this is one of the leading examples, in fact possibly the only example, of a multi-unit passive house, and passive housing is the highest possible standard of housing that we have in the world. Actually, it's a global standard.
After checking progress on the development, due to be open early next year, Shaw described it as a great example for the rest of the country, and the party wants to see similar projects underway.
For the Greens, this kind of development really helps to supplement the work that we're doing on state housing, And so we think that we can really unleash the community sector in ways that hasn't been done so far.
One of the Green Party's housing policies is to change the rules around KiwiSaver first home deposits.
Currently, the rules mean that it makes it very difficult or actually impossible for you to be able to use your KiwiSaver towards a co-housing development like this. So we want to change the rules around that. And the second thing that we want to do is to create national guidance for planners because it is new and councils are kind of struggling with it a bit. And so we want to simplify the rules around planning.
As well as the housing project, Shaw visited Waitati School to set out how his party would support local communities to develop their own small-scale energy projects such as wind farms and solar systems. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Tiwai Point smelter owner Rio Tinto is welcoming the latest promise by the Labour Party to reduce power charges during its wind-down period. The response by the aluminium smelter's owner comes after Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern's visit to Southland yesterday. Ardern said if re-elected, she would work to keep the smelter on life support for another 3 to 5 years. The smelter's owner says Ardern's pledge recognises the smelter has been paying too much for transmission costs. But Gore Mayor Tracy Hicks says if a decision isn't made soon, he has no doubt the smelter will still shut down next August. Millionaire jeweller Michael Hill took a 265-year-old violin for a spin last week. The 81-year-old jewellery magnate performed 2 charity concerts in his adopted hometown of Arrowtown.
Arrowtown-based multi-millionaire Michael Hill performed 2 charity concerts this last week, which included a sellout performance to about 50 people at the Thomas Brown Gallery alongside pianist Kinga Krupa. The jewellery magnate played a violin that's now 265 years old.
This particular violin is particularly rare. It's a Guadagnini violin made in 1755 in perfect condition, unbelievable really. Made in Milan, and of course there was the best maker was Stradivarius, but Guadagnini was the next best on the rank, and he was a few years later.
Sir Michael says the violin is a little like a classic sports car in regard to its performance.
These instruments have an amazing tone to them, which you have to be able to bring it out, mind you. It's a bit like driving a Ferrari with poor gears. They're hard to control because they're so sensitive. But if you can work the sound out, you can get such a kaleidoscope of different tones from a violin like this, which is the advantage of having it.
The 2 concerts raised a substantial sum of money towards the Wakatipu Community Foundation Greatest Need Fund to help local children with mental health issues.
They're going to establish a social worker to go into schools and help children around the area whose families have been struggling with COVID effects.
So these 2 concerts have raised $10,000. That's pretty cool, I thought.
Michael Hill's 12-year-old grandson is also a keen player of the violin and performed some pieces at a concert. In Arrowtown, the South Today.
Still to come on the South Today, Justice Minister Andrew Liddle meets community law advocates in Kaiapoi, and we meet the Dunedin teacher retiring after 46 years of educating youngsters.
All new episodes of Put Some Colour in Your Life are now screening on Channel 39. Take a look at Australian artists and the techniques they use in their studio. Put Some Colour in Your Life, Tuesdays, 7:30.
Hi, Alex Campbell Menswear. We're back in George Street on the corner of Hanover Street. Come and check out our big store. It's a big space full of bargains. Now look at these shirts. There's shirts for everybody here. Look at these merino pullovers, stacks of moleskins, literally tons of trousers. Check out these big racks of sports jackets. Beautiful.
Every reason, every season, we're proud to dress the region. Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits. fits.
So come and check out Alex Campbell Menswear. We're back on George Street in the old ANZ building.
A poorly maintained heat pump can lose up to 35% of its output. The Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner team are experts. Their specially developed chemical wash is totally biodegradable. Call Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner and get the job done by the professionals.
If you're at risk of developing melanoma skin cancer, you owe it to yourself to have a mole map. Mole map is coming to your area. Phone today to make an appointment. It could save your life.
You've seen us in the street, now find us online. Check out shopon.org.nz. We have all sorts of treasures, from retro and vintage clothing to antiques, homewares and accessories. New items added every week. We're open 24/7.
Every season, we're proud to dress the region. Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
Welcome back. Employment and family issues have kept Canterbury Community Law busy in the wake of COVID-19. Labour Justice spokesman Andrew Little and Waimakariri candidate Dan Rosewarne popped into Kaiapoi Community Support to hear from local community law advocates.
Labour's Justice spokesman Andrew Little checking into Canterbury's Community Law Centre. He's visiting with Waimakariri candidate Dan Rosewarne and says COVID-19 has kept community law centres busy.
It's caused a disruption to all sorts of people for all sorts of reasons, but we know particularly with employment, people's employment has been at risk, and I think a lot more people losing jobs. I think a lot of people struggling with their pay and whether they're being paid correctly. Those sorts of things. And it's for that reason that we were able to provide an additional $3.5 million over 3 years for the Community Law Centre network nationwide.
Andrew Little says the consequences of the pandemic are going to take some time to wash through. He says there'll be employment alongside family issues and says the country has an increasing problem of justice inequity.
I think community law centres right around New Zealand play an absolutely crucial role at a time when getting access to legal advice is getting harder and harder for some.
Canterbury Community Law Solicitor Katrina Hope welcomed Andrew Little's visit and says they've noticed more people seeking advice in these uncertain times.
Where a lot of people have never needed our services before, so it's more important than ever to ensure that people are able to access justice and legal services.
Hope says funding always helps, and she says people shouldn't be afraid to ask for legal help across a wide range of issues.
I think it's always good to seek legal advice, even just preliminary advice, just to know where you legally stand and what you can do, especially in these uncertain times.
Andrew Little says community law centres play a vital role in making legal advice affordable, and he'd like to see funding set aside to allow for free legal advice when people are dealing with ACC or tenancy issues. In North Canterbury, the South Today.
A teacher at Dunedin's Carisbrook School is retiring after 46 years educating youngsters. At 64 years of age, Anne Swan has spent her time teaching at a few schools around South Dunedin, with 28 years at the same school in Caversham.
Receiving a fond farewell. Carisbrook school teacher Anne Swan says she's emotional as she gets ready to draw the curtains on a 4-decade career.
Oh, I'm excited. It's a mixed emotions. Excited to a new future where I'll be near a child of mine and his family, his wife and 3 grandchildren, and that's the big draw card. But I've been at the school for 28 years, and I'm on to third generation of families that I won't say, just been social with, as well as worked alongside and supported.
The 64-year-old says it shows she's having an impact on the lives of children, many of whom have come from troubled backgrounds. And she says during nearly 3 decades at Caversham and now Carisbrook schools, she's worked under a few great principals.
I've been so fortunate to work under a number of principals, but 3 particularly stand out, and that was Brian St John when I first came to Caversham School, and then we go on to Mike Darracott at Caversham, and then more latterly Katrina Munro here at Carisbrook. So, they've given great leadership, but it's not just in the environment and well-being of everyone, and that includes staff and families and things. There's a big emphasis on the community and families.
Teaching on the same campus for nearly 30 years has given her a great deal of institutional knowledge. And she says some of the most rewarding work has been in the Special Education Needs Coordinator, or SENCO, role.
The pastoral care SENCO holds a lot of areas that you work with. And I guess on a selfish note, it gives me pleasure to be able to help others, and you can do that in that respect, whether it's getting children early in the morning to the dental school because they've got rotten teeth, or it's wonderful things too though, and I get more back than I ever give, I'm sure about that.
A modest woman, Swan says she really didn't want a huge fuss made of her departure from the school, proving you can't always get what you want.
I had actually said I didn't want to have a farewell. I just wanted to slip away quietly. I just have to breathe in to be able to do that properly, but yes, just slip away, and I certainly didn't want a lot of people coming to anything for me, because I'm only one cog in a wheel here.
She says Carisbrook has some of the most resilient children, and she says she's fond of them. Her departure is marked with a farewell morning tea. In Dunedin, the South Today.
After the break on the South Today, competitive disc golfers converge on Queenstown, and we check out tomorrow's weather.
All new episodes of Put Some Colour in Your Life are now screening on Channel 39. Take a look at Australian artists and the techniques they use in their studio. Put Some Colour in Your Life, Tuesdays, 7:30.
Every reason, every season, we're proud to dress the region. Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
If you're at risk of developing melanoma skin cancer, you owe it to yourself to have a mole map. Mole map is coming to your area. Phone today to make an appointment. It could save your life.
Step into Shop on Carol and discover a shop full of treasures. We have a fantastic range of vintage and retro clothes, upmarket clothing labels, collectible items, beautiful jewellery, quality linen, and the best range of vintage haberdashery.
A poorly maintained heat pump can lose up to 35% of its output. The Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner team are experts. Their specially developed chemical wash is totally biodegradable. Call Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner and get the job done by the professionals.
Hi, Al Campbell Menswear. We're back in George Street on the corner of Hanover Street. Come and check out our big store. It's a big space full of bargains. Now look at these shirts. There's shirts for everybody here. Look at these merino pullovers, stacks of moleskins, literally tons of trousers. Check out these big racks of sports jackets. Beautiful.
Every reason, every season, we're proud to dress the region. Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
So come and check out Alex Campbell Menswear. We're back on George Street in the old ANZ building.
Ah, TV, our favourite babysitter. But it can be tough keeping up with what our tamariki are watching. Luckily, the Broadcasting Standards Authority has made some smart changes to the classification labels. Ooh! Plus changes to the time of day certain rated shows will air, and awesome new parental lock features, meaning your babysitter's job is safe. Find out more at safeviewing.co.nz.
Inside are all sorts of innovations from all over China.
Welcome back. Torrential rain didn't dampen the spirits of disc golfers who descended on the Queenstown Gardens for the annual Queenstown Classic over the weekend. Organisers say that with 100 players registered, the weekend was possibly the largest disc golf event in New Zealand.
It's a gathering of mad people playing frisbees in the wind and the rain.
Inclement weather didn't stop the South Island Disc Golf Championships in the Queenstown Gardens this last weekend. Organiser Paul Child says the champs were part of the annual disc golf tour of about 20 tournaments played at different public parks across the country.
It's the 25th anniversary of the Queenstown Classic, so this event has been happening here for 25 years in the Gardens. So it's quite a special number. It's quite a big event. That's why it's South Island Championships this year.
The poor weather didn't put off the 100 or so players aged between 9 and 70 who had come from all over New Zealand.
Sunny weather, everyone scores well. Bad weather, everyone plays poor. Just got to keep that in mind and not let it ruin your own personal game. Having said that, the conditions make it harder to throw well when your disc is slippery, your hands get slippery, and missed shots happen, misfires happen, you hit trees. There's some mud out there, so the footing's a little bit awkward in places. But yeah, look, you know, it just makes it interesting. It's all part of the game, and if you want to play outdoors, you've got to expect these things, I guess, right?
And for those of you who thought any old frisbee would do, Child assures that's not the case.
Okay, so imagine you're playing a game of golf. Most people can relate to golf, most people know golf. And in your bag, if you're a decent player, you will have a set of woods, a set of irons and a putter. Disc golf is similar. You have a range of clubs, which are your discs, and some are high speed, so they can penetrate the wind better, they're more bladed, and they'll go further. Others are more blunt edged, and they're more for throwing at short distances, approaches. Some will turn to the right, some are will turn to the left. They've just shaped and beveled a little bit differently to give them different aerodynamics.
Disc golf is a growing social sport, and this weekend's event of 100 competitors was one of the largest seen in the country so far. In Queenstown, the South Today.
And now recapping tonight's top stories on the South Today. It snowed to sea level in Dunedin today, bringing people to experience snow on the beach. The Green Party's co-leader says Dunedin co-housing could be leading the way, showing how community housing can work. And one of New Zealand's most recognisable jewellery traders is helping a local project for a good cause. And time now for a look at what's happening in tomorrow's ODT. Welcome, Craig.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Interesting story about parking, which seems to fire people up in the city as well. We're currently having a Shaping Dunedin Future Transport document going around the city, and people have been asked to submit to that. The Southern District Health Board has suggested a park and walk facility as part of the new hospital. Of course, parking around the new hospital, that's going to be a bit of a concern. As part of their submission, they've suggested building parking buildings or parking areas around Wharf Street and other parts of down by the harbour side there, and then running shuttle buses for people to the hospital. This would be for visitors to the hospital, staff and patients as well, non-urgent patients of course. So yeah, I guess it's going to cause a bit of discussion for a lot of people. If you go to the hospital, you expect to pull up outside, I guess. So yeah, there's going to be some heated discussion about that. We've also got more on the weather, particularly bad down the Clutha area today. Interesting though, some respite in site Met Service today saying that come the weekend we can expect almost a mini heat wave with temperatures up in the 20s, so that's something to look forward to. Stephen Jackery's had the company drone up today, taking some lovely aerials of Milton and Balclutha, quite spectacular and well worth a look. Our fresh food pages, we continue our regular series with a guest chef. We talk to Kind Company's Sophia Craig tomorrow, and she's provided some vegan recipes for us, so quite interesting. And on the sporting front, good news for Dunedin, 2 international cricket matches scheduled for the city in the upcoming season, so that will be nice. 2020 against Australia, and that'll be the first time Australia's played in Dunedin since 2000, when they played at Carisbrook. Remember that ground? And we also have a match against Bangladesh in March, so plenty to look forward to on the cricketing front. Just quickly, we also Shield build-up, catch up with Captain Michael Collins of Otago. He's the only player to be involved in Otago's last 3 successful Shield games, so yeah. That's over 7 years, so he's done a pretty good job. So yeah, nice story with him as well.
Great. Wow, thank you, Craig. All of that and more in tomorrow's ODT. And time now for a look at the weather.
Tonight's weather proudly brought to you by Mole Map.
Beginning with the city view, Channel 39's presentation coordinator Kyle on the way to work. Looking at the situation, very cold southwesterly airflow will ease tonight and tomorrow, with fine weather returning to the region and bringing lighter winds but nighttime frosts. Starting off at the northwest of the South Island, partial cloud for the region with 13 degrees in Greymouth and 12 degrees in Westport. To the northeast, mostly sunny with 13 degrees in Blenheim and 14 degrees in Nelson. In Canterbury, sunshine with 10 degrees in Kaikoura and 12 degrees in both Christchurch and Ashburton. To the southern towns, the Catlins, Balclutha, Lumsden and Gore should see decreasing southwesterlies becoming fine and 12 degrees. In central, light southwesterlies becoming fine with 11 degrees in Queenstown and Wanaka, 13 degrees in Alexandra and 12 degrees in Te Anau. To the northern towns, light southwesterlies and fine conditions for the area with 13 degrees in Timaru and Oamaru and 12 degrees inland in Twizel and Omarama. In Dunedin, showers clearing tonight with an overnight low of 0. Mostly fine and sunny tomorrow with cold southwesterlies dying out. Frosty tomorrow night, a high of 12 and a low of -3. Mostly fine and sunny on Thursday with milder temperatures and moderate northeasterlies, a high of 16 and a low of 7. And in Invercargill, showers clearing tonight with an overnight low of -1. Mostly fine and sunny on Wednesday with cold southwesterlies dying out and frost at night, a high of 12 and a low of -2. Milder with high cloud increasing on Thursday and moderate northwesterly winds, a high of 15 and a low of 7. That's all for our news this Tuesday. For the latest news from the southern region, head online to odt.co.nz or follow Channel 39 on Facebook and YouTube. Thanks for joining us. Ka kite anō.
This bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.